Okay, so yeah, this is what Francis Schaeffer looks like. Just have that picture. All right. Francis Schaeffer was born on January 30th, 1912 in Germantown, Pennsylvania, where he spent his childhood. He was an only child to a working class, and surprisingly, his parents actually had no Christian faith. His story starts when a library accidentally checked out a book to him on philosophy. This book raised all the core questions of life for him, so that by the age of 18, he was an agnostic. In case you don't know what agnosticism is, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, an agnostic is a person who holds the view that any ultimate reality, such as God, is unknown and probably unknowable. At the time, he went to a church that was greatly influenced by religious liberalism and did not believe the Bible was true. However, he decided to read the Bible for himself to see for himself whether it was true or not. After reading the whole Bible in 6 months, he realized it answered all the core questions of life, and thus Schaeffer became a Christian. He attended Hampton-Sydney College, which is a liberal arts school, and after graduating, he enrolled in Westminster Theological Seminary to be a pastor. In 1935, while at Hampton-Sydney, he met Edith Seville during a church event where the speaker presented how he knew Jesus wasn't divine and how the Bible was not inspired by God. Both Edith and Francis rebutted the speaker, and after hearing each other speak, asked their friends, "Who's that boy?" or "Who's that girl?" After the event, Francis asked to walk Edith home, to which Edith replied that she had already had a date. Francis looked at her calmly and said, "Break it." And yes, Francis did walk Edith home. Thus began their life together. After World War II, his Presbyterian denomination sent him to Europe to investigate the churches in that area. Alarmingly, Schaeffer discovered that many churches were slipping away from the belief of the Bible as God's word. Soon, Schaeffer felt called by God to be a missionary in Europe, so the Schaeffer family moved to Switzerland in 1948 to defend biblical Christianity. However, in 1951, Schaeffer realized that his calling was to spread the truth to those outside of Christianity rather than wage theological warfare within it. They founded a community in the Swiss Alps called The Shelter, or L'Abri in French. Many young and searching people stumbled upon this community, where Edith looked after them and Francis listened to them and discussed life, philosophy, and theology. Sadly, Schaeffer was diagnosed with cancer in 1978 and died from it in 1984. However, Schaeffer left a legacy, his work at the shelter. Most of the books he wrote remain in print and are still relevant. He also greatly influenced some distinguished academics who view him as their spiritual and intellectual father. In short, Francis cared about the world, truth, and people.
Thank you, Caleb. Wow, that's so. Do you have his book?
Yeah, one of his books is called what is it? How Should We Then Live?
Yeah.
Actually, pretty funny because it's very similar to Chuck Colson's How Now Shall We Live?
Yeah. So you have the book?
Yes, we do.
Oh, did you read it?
We just got it like yesterday or today, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Oh, okay. Hope you see, hope this class will open you a window to read many other books. So I do have Francis Schaeffer's book, How Should We Then Live? And you can see it's a very similar title, right? That's and that's another, his volume 1. He has like many set. Once I asked Chuck Colson, he said, I said, where you get this influence from to be interested in Christian worldview? And you should know who is the person. He said, Francis Schaeffer. So now we get to know the teacher of Chuck Colson. Okay, do you see the screen? Please, do you see the screen well? Okay, all right. So actually my oldest daughter also went to the Europe in Switzerland. The, how to call it, the Bari, that my older sister went there to stay for a few weeks. Of course, Schaefer is not there anymore, but I forgot, his sister is someone still do ministry there. And it's quite interesting. So wish we can have something like that. You just go there. It's not a retreat or summer camp. It's just very personal. It's not a whole big group of people. You just live there and eat with them, live with them, you know, and talk and chat. I think this is a very unique way to share the gospel. And you say Schaefer want to be a missionary to Europe. I think we should have that type of missionary again too, right? You see, the entire Europe is running away from God. Okay, again, thanks for Caleb. Today we're going to look into a new topic, which is second one, 4. We talk about creation, right? Where do we come from? Who we are? Now today we're going to look at this, and you see how Chuck Colson built this up is very helpful and important. So we will see the problem from the root, not just look at the symptom. Redemption, restoration, don't forget about it. All right. So we need to look at things from the bottom. God's word or man's word, creation, evolution, because they're going to come up all these other subjects. Too often we always just look at the top here. Oh, we talk about abortion is not good. Or we talk about marriage should be one man, one woman. I think what I learned most from Chuck Colson's book is help us look at the root. All right. Too often, even Christian, we didn't know about that. We didn't care about that. So I hope this is really going to be helping us see everything from the root. Okay, what has gone wrong with the world? I think everybody will know something wrong, right? You look at newspaper, just these few days, so many places, Europe, China has all this heavy rain causing a lot of flood. Let's pray for them. And all this natural disaster or internally our problems, okay? So our human dilemma. Why is there war and suffering, disease and death, poverty, injustice, racial problem, right? I think that's, every day we struggling with all these questions. And how should we solve this? How do we think about this? I think we should, right? So we are born into the world where rebellion against God has already taken place and the drift of it sweeps us along. Wow. Yes, so when we look at these problems, that reminded us, our world is not Disneyland, right? Even Disneyland need to be shut down for COVID. So that's no perfect place in this world. But how do we explain that? When bad things happen to good people, that's a Jewish rabbi tried to answer the question by this book. But he's bad things and good people. But the question is, how do you define good people? So this is a question everybody wants to ask. All right, let me ask you, are people born good or evil? Who said people born good? We take anybody?
Born evil.
Born evil. Okay. How about born good? Anybody think people born good? Or we think people born evil? I think Chinese, we know this, right? Which one is say People born good. And parents, you should know. Which Chinese?
People are naturally just not good.
Yeah, but yeah.
The 三字经 is said, people born good.
Yeah, who said? I mean, who's who is the person who talked about that? Very famous Chinese teacher. Who is that?
是老子还是孔子？老子吗？
Like Buddha or something?
No. Very come on, parents should know. Confucius, right? Confucius talk about we are born good, Mengzi, right? 孔子 Mengzi, right? And who talk about people are born evil? Which one? Chinese, the Chinese guy. Who is that? Parents, do you know?
荀子是不是？
荀子, yes. Okay. So this is not a new question. An ancient Chinese philosopher is already debated this about it. And you see, when you're thinking people born good, you try to, like Confucius, very nicely talk to you, tell all this idea, right? But how you can do it, right? And how about Xunzi? He said, people born evil, so we need to have a strong punishment, a strict law, so people can be good because they're born evil. So isn't that interesting? Nothing new. And our Asian Chinese wise men work very hard to try to solve this problem. So let's see how the Western thought deal with this. So again, everything we always think this, right? We try to think about secular way and then biblical way. So what's the secular way? After Chuck Colson's book, this is another good book to read. Serious Times, James White. He talked about we are in the second fall. So what's first fall? In the biblical term, what's first fall? Can someone answer me? What is the first fall?
The first fall, Adam and Eve.
Okay, so who kicked who out?
God kicked Adam and Eve.
Yeah, the first fall, God kicked Adam out of Garden of Eden, right? Okay, so let's first fall, we all know. But how about second fall? That's from the author of Serious Time. What do you think? What is the second fall? Anybody want to try? Think about it. The first fall, God kicked Adam out.
Sorry. I think this is just something that I thought might work, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Is the second fall humans trying to take God out of their lives?
Yes. Who's that?
Emmanuel.
Okay, very good. Yes, you're right. The second fall occurred when we return the favor, right? God kicked us out from the Eden. Now we're going to kick you out. And that's what happening. Isn't it interesting? He put it this way. So we don't have time. I'm not an expert on all this Western history, but you can see this movement, it is in the process to kick God out. Let me see, especially enlightenment. Okay, enlightenment, the reason we praise God. Humandom replace Christendom, and especially talk about the Christian is dark age, right? So you see the way we view history. When of course you can see that's always every society has a dark side, but you can see the view on this. When you see the Christian is dark age, so human gonna replace that. That's enlightenment. So this long 300 years ago. So we are just building on top of all these ideas. Remember, ideas have what?
Consequences.
Thank you. So last we talked about utopianism, and we see that this idea is really penetrate to every areas of our society. Excuse me? Yeah. So the great modern myth of utopianism. So human nature is intrinsically good and can form the basis of a perfect society. You see that? Wow. It sounds very good and attractive, right? So human beings are good, so we can form a perfect society. Human beings intrinsically and under the right social condition, their good nature will emerge. Now you know, so the human beings' effort is to create this right social condition, so the good nature will come out. The product of environments of ignorance, poverty, and all other undesirable social conditions. And that all it takes to create ideal society is to create a better environment, improve education, enhance economy condition, re-engineering social structures. I really encourage you to read these two chapters or this section of the Chuck Colson's book. It paid a foundation and really helps me a lot on how do we see the modern society. It is really before this book, I don't know how to answer all these questions. It's very, very helpful. Okay, so the confidence that humans are perfectible provides a justification for trying to make them perfect, no matter what it takes. And with God out of this picture, those in power are not accountable to any higher authority. They can use any means necessary, no matter how brutal or cohesive, to remote people to fit their notion of the perfect society. Didn't see, you can think about this, all right? The intention is always very good because it's for the good of society, then you can force everybody. All right. For example, vaccine is good, right? So are we able to want to force everyone to take it? Even it's good, okay? So anything, we need to think about that this in really in a time like this, that, okay, don't take me wrong. I'm not encouraging you don't take the vaccine, okay? But I just want to see how this can apply, take into in our real life, right? But William Barclay said, utopianism inevitable brings on death of liberty. Okay. We talk about that. You should know this. Okay, ideas have consequence, right? For when we close our eye to the human capacity for evil, we fail to build the moral boundaries needed to protect us from that evil. This is a struggle, okay? And which is good that everybody also hopefully to think a better society, isn't it? Thank God for that, right? Because we have a God's image. So no matter Christian and non-Christian, we all have a desire, want to hopefully can produce and live in a better country, better society, right? So I feel like if we debate with people don't have the same view with us, anything, we should appreciate the good intention, good motivations. I think on either side, people do think want to have better society. I do believe that, okay? So don't try to demonize our opponents, okay? I think that's something in the debate or argument and present idea. Don't demonize our opponents. Don't just because they don't believe in Christianity, they are bad, evil, right? Or even with Christian, don't think people don't have the same view as us. Oh, they are very bad, okay? I feel that's first step we should take. In America, used to be able to just debate on anything. And we should still have the ability, environment. But unfortunately, I think the cancel culture caused I couldn't debate in anything. As soon as you be labeled on some certain way and it got canceled out. I think that's the very dangerous idea for our society of freedom of speech. Because you see that when the idea want to be stronger, then you couldn't tolerate any different view. That's a problem. All right, so let's keep moving. Charles helped me is to see every ideas also come from someone. All right, it's not just vacuums. And especially for most of us, we are not philosopher majors, right? And his book really helps us a lot to see, where this idea originated from. So I only heard this guy before, Emerson's. He is a champion of individualism. So he said the self-reliance, that the self in its search for truth must be free from all external authority, whether divine revelation, the church, history, or tradition. Again, a lot of this is all the product of enlightenment. Maybe, okay, that's some problem that when during the medieval time, church control every thinking, right? So people want to rebel against church authority. So they also, we want to think for ourselves, not just by what church say, right? So I do pray and hope in the future we can have, I'm going to teach church history in English. I just taught that in Chinese. I feel want to update the class also. I really love church history. All right. So you see that he's champion for individualism. So Emerson announced the dawn of the new age of the everyone for himself, driven to find all his resource, hope, reward, society, and deity within himself. Look at this verse. Nathan, can you read this for us?
But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, appeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God.
Okay, so when you look at this, also you need to look at the train of thought on the history, that from the very beginning, most of people trying to reason about their life from outside, right? They see it from nature. They see it from a higher being, although they don't know who it is. But now people start thinking for themselves. They won't think control. So remember last week says, I think who, therefore I am, right? So connect to me. And you look at this Time magazine saying the me generation. Millennials are lazy, entitled, and narcissism who still live with their parents. Do you agree with that? I don't. All right, this story is already almost 10 years ago, right? So, for parents or you want to know about what's going on, this book is very helpful to me. It's not a Christian book, okay, but very vivid to describe what's going on in our society. Called Me Generation, right? And just look at the subtitle. Today's young Americans are more confident, assertive, entitled, and more miserable than ever before. Isn't it interesting? That she is a professor in San Diego, I think, psychology professor. Again, we'll look into that. Psychology is not a biblical, but I like this type of book. Is that they look into research what's going on today. Okay, I think that we should know understand the time. So it's very helpful to say this generation has never known a world that put duty before self. I don't know. Maybe during the discussion we can talk about. You agree with her The most important thing is how you feel and being happy. Do you agree with her? A couple of years ago, when I was reading this book, and just happened this high schooler from my youth group came to my home, and I said, "Oh, hi John. Let me ask you, what's the purpose of your life?" And he said, "Be happy." I said, "Wow, that this also is quite correct, you know." So the most important thing is to be happy. But shouldn't we be happier now if we all our effort is to want to be happy? But she said the growing tendency to put the self first leads to unparalleled freedom, but it also creates enormous pressure to stand alone. Oh, very interesting. Her research, she's compared with different generations. And, you know, very interesting, she said that for America, during the Depression in early 20th century, during the World War I, World War II, people are still happier than today's young people. Isn't it very interesting? Teen depression and anxiety, why the kids are not all right. And this is all new things in some way. Before, you don't see this, many young people has this problem. So I think that's help us to think about it. What's something wrong, you know, right? We have the material life, probably we are much, much better than before during the war, during depression. But why people today, so many young people are not happy? And really that's the individual really is not helping us. Like the author said, during the Depression, those people are thinking about other people, think about country, actually, so they don't put all just thinking for themselves, and they're happier, right? So utopia view is that give me power and I will use it to create ideal society. Pay attention, give me power. It tells us we are good, but it unleashes the worst evil. It promises entire enlightenment, but it throws us out into darkness. Whatever becomes sin. Next week, we're going to look into more on that, but today we look at the secular view. The disappearance of the word sin involves a shift in the location of responsibility for evil. Let me ask you, if outside the church, have you ever heard about sin, this word? Anybody? Or maybe
No.
No, right? Do you find you don't find it in any textbook? You don't find it in any advertisement? You don't find
it's only like a mistake or something.
Yeah, mistake, you see? Yeah, sin, this word is all disappear in our society. And probably even also disappear from church, unfortunately, right? Too many, you can see, too many prosperity gospel preacher, they are not talking much sin, or even talk about it's very lightweighted. So that's something we need to see in our society. And how did it happen? Everything all started from someone. Rousseau. In its nature state, human nature is good. People become evil only when they are corrupted by society. Okay, you see that idea? You're good. We come back to society, not you, not you. So man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. Wow. Probably, I don't know if you study philosophy or something, you're going to read all these books. It may sound good and so enlightenment. Oh, so give us a lot of power. Want to do something. The key is that Rousseau did not define freedom as assertion of right against the state. Okay, so basically he we are enchained by what? By parents, by traditions, by church, by all this morality, whatever. That is what he's talking about. The one who can liberate it is state, in his view. The state, in fact, will be the liberator. By destroying all social ties, the state would release the individual from loyalty to anything except itself. Each citizen would then be completely independent of its own fellow man and absolutely depend on the state. Okay, just think about all this earlier. You see, freedom means liberated from the form of institution of society, family, church, class, and local communities. And that's why we call from the politics of redemption. Politics can be the mean not only of creating the better world, but of actually transforming human nature, creating the new man. Isn't that so? Honestly, if you're not Christian, we don't have a Bible, isn't it give you a great ambition, a great energy? It's, wow, we're going to create a new being. But it was the first time that the state was actually portrayed as a liberator. Okay, so now the state become the savior. This explains why Rousseau's philosophy gave birth to the modern concept of revolution, which involved not just political rebellions to overthrow a particular ruler, but also the wholesale destruction of the existing society in order to build a new ideal society from scratch. There's nothing can explain more than ideas have consequence. That's why, remember last week we talked about Churchill said, the future empire is an empire of what? Can someone still remember? Churchill said, the future empire is an empire of what?
The mind.
Mind, yes. You see that? Mind is so powerful. And unfortunately, we church, we Christian, throw it out. And so the world picked it up and then use that to wipe us out. Who's this guy? You may not know that well. How about this one? Who's that?
Marx.
Huh?
Is that Marx?
Yeah. Who's that?
Lenin.
Yeah.
And
you should know. How about this one? Okay.
Hitler.
Mao Zedong.
All these people picked up the idea from Rousseau. Okay.
The first one was Robespierre.
From who's the guy?
From the French Revolution.
Yes.
I thought it was Robespierre, but I wasn't exactly sure.
Yeah. So you see, the idea is so powerful. All these people pick up from Rousseau and then use it, to practice that, right? So the state would always be right, always tend toward the public good, right? French Revolution, Marx, the party like General Will are always right. Fascism, Nazi took Nietzsche's idea into superhumans. You just think about all this. And isn't we often think about whatever government give us is right? Whenever the government took power, I'm not talking which particular party. Naturally, it could become that say, whoa, government say this way must be right because they try to care for us, right? So you see that all has good intention. Few years ago, I went to Israel and I toured the Holocaust Museum. Oh, it's just so horrible that this thing can happen just not many years ago. And the tour guide told us, all these people follow Hitler to do all these evil things. Most are college students and about a lot are law school students. And they think they are doing the good things for the world. That is so powerful. When you, by killing people, by doing all these things, you think it's doing good, then you do it, right? And it's because the idea say they want to wipe out all this bad world, want to create something new. So you just see how powerful the thinking would be. So someone said that never has so many been murdered in the name of the doctrine as in the name of the principle of human beings are naturally good. You see that? Just think of how many people were murdered and killed by all these revolutions. The utopia illusion and the sentimental attraction of modern liberal culture are really all derived from the basic error of neglecting the fact of original sin. You see that? And before this, I can admit that we as a Christian, I grew up in the church. I never thought about this will have such big impact. Or we just think about, we are just in the church. Yeah, so we talk about these things. That doesn't matter on the outside, right? Wow, it doesn't matter. If God is created the whole thing, of course it matters everywhere. So you can say, oh, we are not like the communism country now. We don't use that murder, all this, but we have different way. They call soft despotism, right? That become a nanny, right? We give you everything. We give you everything free, right? So you see, by calling them instead of force them. So you see that elections, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, all right? This is just briefly from the idea that utopianism will penetrate in every area of thinking, right? So from animal to machine that affect psychologies. We got to move on. Freud. I probably most college, do you need to learn the psychology in high school? Right now, I don't know. But I think in college, probably most people need to study psychology, even you are the major, right? They always like psychology 101. And I see so many young people want to major in psychology. And I do have a lot of concerns, right? So Freud, he's using, we used to be theological term, sin, soul, conscience. So he wiped them out, replaced with instinct, drives. Oh, you have this instinct, you want to do something bad, that's drives you, okay? He did more than anyone else to debunk the very notion of moral responsibility. You see that? That it's not your personal responsibility. No. Okay, can someone read this for me? How about Emmanuel? Can you read this for me?
A committed Darwinist, Freud proposed an evolutionary scheme in which our primitive impulses, the ID, belong to the oldest, most animal part of the human brain, which the rational mind, the ego, is a later development from the more highly evolved cerebral cortex. Thus, the things that society labels bad are not really evil. They simply reflect the more ancient animal part of the brain. Oh, and I actually said ID instead id. I realized it's a Latin word just now.
Yeah.
Id.
Yeah, so a lot, probably I've encouraged you in high school to learn some Latin. Okay, my oldest one learned Latin. So you can learn a lot of root of the English, and also ideas. So you see, evolution is going to grow in every area. The root is so important, right? It's not just about biologists. Everything, people pick it up so they can bear fruit, and it's going to penetrate on every area. We're going to see more coming, right? So Freud used this. The bad is because haven't evolved. So whatever evolved is good. Whatever new is good. The all is bad. That's evolution, right? So the flaw in human nature are a result not of moral corruption, but of learned responses, right? So that's why education, right? That's always coming out on this, how they fix, retune the human nature. In the past, that's the classical education, the pursuit of the truth, and the training of the moral character. But now it's just a mean of conditioning, with the child being treated as essential passive rather than an active moral agent. So the idea of education also different. You see, now we cannot punish kids. I know we cannot using the red pen, right? I think this is true. One use he's not used anymore. It's from our church. He's a teacher, and then she told me that they cannot. She's a teacher in the New York public school. She cannot correct kids' wrong spelling. All right, so a lot of this classical education idea has been thrown out. Oh, even another one. This one is we say every year we have a summer camp, right? And then this girl want to come to be a teacher, also grew up from our church. And then she's a master program, want to be a teacher. And she said, oh, we don't force people to sit down. They can do whatever they want in the classroom. So, whoa, I already had a headache for how to deal with all those kids in the summer camp. And then she's lecturing me and say, we just let them do whatever they want, because that's what she learned from school, to how to be a teacher. So yeah, I think that just give you some idea, all these people. I hope you get to read Chuck Colson's book. All right, Watson, that's another one. So basically, this idea is that the old way is by religion and morality, and they were going to throw out. And actually, George Washington said, our democracy cannot survive without the religion and morality. But now we're going to throw them out. And that's why what will happen, right? So law also changed now. Before, it's traditional, in the West, we think God is a lawgiver. Look at it, go to Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court. Moses is right in the middle. That means the law is from God. But now the change. Homer, that said he was influenced by Darwin and the rise of social science. The law was redefined as a tool of identifying and manipulating the right factor to create social harmony and progress. So we see all this idea of mind. That's why it's so progressive, right? We are conservative or progressive. You can label this. Everything is evolving, even the law, even the human nature, right? Both law and government policies should be transformed into social engineering. Look at this book, it's many years ago. And we see the result more and more intensifying this. All right. And this is a great example. 1930, that's New Deal. 1960, that's Great Society. That's implemented by President Lyndon Johnson. And look at this. The main goal was the total elimination of poverty and racial injustice, 1960. And when he launched this program, he has a speech in Ohio University. He said, and with your courage and with your compassion and your desire, we will build a great society. It's a society where no child will go unfed and no youngster will go unschooled. And they pouring so much money on that, all right? 1960. And this guy, he heard a call. He went to inner city to try to help out. That includes so many people come to help. Again, good intention, okay? But what he found out is that the failed Great Society program he writes are an illustration of humanity hopeless pursuit of utopia through government beneficence. You see that? And we are repeating this. You know, when he got into the program and he tried to help inner city kids to learn, and they said, they won't learn, they cannot learn because they never taught to behave, never taught the morality. And the one before him got injured, so that's why he got, and you just see this. So he said the need forms of moral guidance and discipline, which they were not getting at home or school. And look at this. Last year, New York City planned to move some police funding to youth and social service. Isn't it the same idea? Again, I want to say people has good intention, but when you see the diagnosis of a different view, then you're going to give them different medicine, right? And we are trying to say, hey, the Bible has real diagnosis, so also provide a right medicine for our human problem. Scientific utopianism always backfire. It expands government control while gradually sapping citizens of moral responsibilities, economy, initiative, and personal prudence. Honestly, when 20 years ago, I read this idea, oh, is that really? And last year, probably we see, it is profit. I mean, he already seen it many years ago, right? When people are constantly taught that they are controlled by outside force, they begin to believe it. When things go wrong, someone else must be to blame. This is real case. 2013, Ethan Couch, he aged 16, killed 4 people while driving under the influence of alcohol. And, you know, and only to 10 years probation subsequently ordered him to therapy. And the reason is what? Affluenza. Do you know what I mean? His affluence, the lawyer claimed he's too rich. Actually, his parents so rich, and say because he's so rich and parents never disciplined him. So get him out of the responsibility of a drunken driver, kill many people. This is real case. And then the parents pay for a lot of money, put him to this rehab center, like a basic resort, and for him to rehab. So that is a real case in the society. So denial of sin may appear to be a benign, a comforting doctrine, but in the end, it is demeaning and destructive, for it denies the significance of a choice and actions. In denying sin and evil, we actually unleash its worst power. If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. I hope you see. I feel like this is already explained all the things what's going on in our society, what's behind. I really think you can judge yourself, look at the book, and then think through it, right? And I feel that Chuck has such ability and strength to write and use a real case. Like Great Society is been tried, okay? The problem is that when people don't read history and then we're saying, oh, we're going to be different. At least I'm going to make it right, you know? And the same thing. Now, we don't say that Great Society was, we even obviously say that socialism. We want socialism, right? We want everything free. Yeah. So just quickly, I think we are Christian, you know this. Actually, the Bible said we are born sinful, not necessarily good or evil. We are born sinful, right? So the original sin is a sinful state and condition in which every human being is born. So when we born, and the crime, actual sin is we committed, right? So Pascal said, certainly nothing offends us more rudely than the doctrine of original sin. And yet without this mystery, the most incomprehensible of all, we are incomprehensible of ourselves. Really, if we don't know this condition, how can you figure out, am I born good or evil? But why do I have this problem? Why do I have this, right? So sin has its origin at the time of the origin of the human race. Origin is the source of actual sin. Look at this verse. David said, I was conceived sin in my mother's womb. Maybe this next week we can talk more on the actual Bible teaching on this, okay? The fall as a historical event, all of Adam and Eve's descendants are now born with a corrupt nature and are under a sense of condemnation because their connection. Adam is our head, our representative. So what I'm trying to say is the Bible really have a truly correctly our human diagnosis, right? And that's what a great powerful for us to defend. They call apologetic is it's not just your doctrine says so. The Christian doctrine actually reveal the real reality, right? Right. One person in through Adam, and we all sin. And we cannot have our own way to fix that. Right. That's Calvin said, the total depravity, right? The corruption of original sin extend to every aspect of human nature, reason, will, appetite, impulse. There is nothing in man that by nature loves God as the motivating principle of his life. So this is the theologian trying to answer all these questions through the centuries, and it still applies today. And not only in the debate in the church, it matters outside everywhere, how we live, because it affects everybody. So that's why the Bible said we have to be born again. There's no other easy way out to create a perfect society. All right. People tried it out of human history. Try it. We can blind it. Said we're going to try it again. This time we're going to put in more money. This time we're going to put in more technology and hope that works. Okay. So, all right.